The 1998 Nora Ephron film You've Got Mail is the heartwarming story of a sociopath who falls in love with a small businesswoman and is able to psychologically manipulate her into falling in love with him too. It tells the story of Joe Fox, played by Tom Hanks, and Kathleen Kelly, played by Meg Ryan. Kathleen's only desire in life is just to run a small, adorable children's bookstore called The Shop Around the Corner, which her mother passed on to her. In fact, Kathleen hopes to pass the store on to her daughter if and when she has one. Meanwhile, Joe Fox runs Fox Books, a Barnes & Noble-like chain of huge bookstores. Fox Books has coffee shops, a huge selection, and cheaper prices. But its success also means that the shop around the corner, already facing pretty tough times, has its entire existence threatened. At the same time as all this is happening, Joe and Kathleen are secretly corresponding with each other via AOL email and instant messenger. Joe's screen name is NY152, and Kathleen is Shopgirl. The two of them have started falling in love, but what they don't know is that on the other end of the screen is their sworn mortal enemy. You've Got Mail has a solid cast including Greg Kinnear and Dave Chappelle. It's a great New York movie. It shows a lot of the locations and makes living in the city seem very attractive. And the soundtrack is awesome, a great representation of the late 90s. But as I was watching the movie, I made a realization. Joe Fox is a narcissistic sociopath. Now, I am not a psychologist, but I do have access to Google, and according to the internet, here are some characteristics of people who are narcissistic sociopaths. Number 1. They use charm or wit to manipulate others for personal gain. In an early scene where Meg Ryan is in line for groceries, she realizes she's in a cash-only line. Joe Fox intervenes to help, and originally my thinking was, oh, he's gonna whip out his wallet and help pay with cash because he's got lots of cash. But nope. He just uses his charm to get the cashier to break the rules. Clearly someone who's pretty obsessed with how awesome he is. Another characteristic of narcissistic sociopaths is number 2, fragile self-esteem, vulnerable to even the slightest criticism. Take this scene where Joe Fox is watching a segment on TV about his new store. The dude just completely loses it when he's criticized in the slightest. This is someone who is not capable of meaningful self-examination. You gotta get away from him, Kathleen. You gotta get away from him. Another characteristic of people who are narcissistic sociopaths is number 3. They lack empathy for others or remorse about harming others. Throughout the entire film, Fox Books continues to crush the shop around the corner. At any point, Joe Fox could step in and help. He could offer to save the store with the millions of dollars he has. He could provide Meg Ryan some of the many resources he has access to help bring in some new business. Instead, he just watches it die. And it's absolutely heartbreaking, because Meg Ryan at one point actually says that watching her store die is like experiencing her mom's death all over again. I mean, how messed up is that Joe Fox could have actually stopped one of the worst tragedies of this woman's life from occurring, and doesn't. Not only doesn't, but is arguably responsible for it happening in the first place and doesn't tell her or anything. All this stuff prior to now is just an amuse-bouche, as it were, for the lead up to the real problem, which is that sociopaths persistently lie to exploit others. There's a scene early on where Joe Fox proposes meeting Kathleen, and she shows up first, a decision she would definitely come to regret. Joe Fox sees her, and rather than revealing that he's the person she's been talking to the whole time, he's a huge asshole to her, and on a night where he knows he holds all the cards in terms of whether or not she's going to find out the truth. He leaves her at the cafe, knowing that she's gonna think she was stood up by this guy on the internet who she's basically in love with. That is already really bad and upsetting, a place from which no healthy relationship could possibly hope to come back from. But then the dude ups the ante. When her bookstore closes, he infiltrates her house against her wishes, sits on her bed, and even touches her mouth. Now remember, in Kathleen's mind at this point, these two people are barely friends. But there's Joe Fox behaving like everything's super great and still refusing to tell Kathleen the truth. This is some real jacked up shit, guys, like serial killer shit. A killer going back to the scene of the crime, or like calling the family of the child you murdered. I mean, this guy's into some weird, messed up stuff. In the final portion of the film, the two of them carry on a friendship during which Joe Fox continues to hide the fact that he's NY152. They go on dates, and eventually he forces her to choose between himself and NY152, knowing that he is actually both people. I mean, why would you subject someone to this unless you also have the following characteristic of narcissists, which is a need for excessive attention and admiration? Think about it, folks. Think about it. Anyway, Meg Ryan is totally into it, so they live happily ever after. And I hope Kathleen Kelly is happy today, probably married to Joe Fox, never arguing about the fact that he exterminated her dreams for absolutely no reason. Alright folks, this is David Chen. If you enjoyed this video essay, subscribe and hit that bell icon if you want to see more film, television, and cultural analysis. Thank you for coming to my TED Talk. See you in the next one.